The studio froze. Dr. Phil raised his hand. Stop. I need to see that photograph. Every camera operator paused mid-movement. The audience held its breath. In 25 years of television, Dr. Phil McGraw rarely interrupted a segment. But when Jennifer Matthews reached into her bag and pulled out a single 4x6 photograph, something in her eyes told him this was different. This wasn't just evidence. This was a story that had been silent for too long. And in the next 17 minutes, that photograph would reveal a truth that would leave everyone in the studio, including Dr. Phil himself, struggling to hold back tears. If you want to understand how one image can change everything, subscribe now, because what happens next will stay with you long after this video ends. 3 weeks earlier, Jennifer Matthews had sent an email to the Dr. Phil show. The subject line read, "My daughter's last gift to me." The producers almost deleted it. They received thousands of emails every day, most of them variations of the same desperate pleas for help. But something about Jennifer's message was different. It wasn't asking for advice. It was asking for a witness. "I need someone to see what I saw," she wrote. "I need someone to understand what she went through. And I need the world to know that my daughter didn't give up. She fought. And she left me proof." The producers called her that same afternoon. Jennifer was 47 years old, a former nurse from Columbus, Ohio. She had lived what most would call an ordinary life, working double shifts at a children's hospital, raising her daughter Emma as a single mother, volunteering at the local food bank on weekends. But 18 months ago, her world collapsed when Emma, her only child, died by suicide at age 19. The official report called it a tragedy. Jennifer called it a murder. Not in the legal sense. There were no charges filed, no criminal investigation. But Jennifer knew what had killed her daughter, and it wasn't depression. It wasn't mental illness. It was something far more insidious, something that had been happening in plain sight, while everyone, including Jennifer herself, had looked the other way. Dr. Phil paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. On the day of the taping, Jennifer arrived at the studio early. She wore a simple navy dress, minimal makeup, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She carried only one item, a small leather purse, worn at the edges, the kind you inherit from your mother and never replace. Inside that purse was the photograph. The producers had briefed Dr. Phil on the basics: grieving mother, teen suicide, complex family dynamics. They expected the usual trajectory: a tearful confession, some hard truths about warning signs, maybe a referral to grief counseling. They had no idea what was actually coming. Dr. Phil walked onto the stage to applause, his signature confident stride, his eyes already scanning Jennifer's face. He could read people faster than most therapists could read a case file. And what he saw in Jennifer Matthews wasn't just grief. It was determination. "Jennifer," he began, settling into his chair. "Thank you for being here. I know this isn't easy. Thank you for having me, Dr. Phil." Her voice was steady, almost too steady. Like someone who had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her head. "Tell me about Emma." And she did. For the first 5 minutes, Jennifer painted a picture of her daughter the way any mother would. Emma loved art. She wanted to be a veterinarian. She had a laugh that could fill a room. She was kind, sensitive, the type of kid who cried when she saw a dead bird on the sidewalk. But then Jennifer's voice changed. "Emma met Ryan when she was 17. He was 22. At first, I thought he was good for her. He seemed protective, attentive. He called her every day, wanted to know where she was, who she was with. I thought that was love." Dr. Phil leaned forward. He knew where this was going. "It wasn't love, was it, Jennifer?" "No." Her hands trembled slightly. "It was control." Over the next several minutes, Jennifer described a textbook case of coercive control. Ryan didn't hit Emma, not at first. He didn't need to. He isolated her from her friends, convinced her that her family didn't understand her, monitored her phone, told her what to wear, when to eat, how to think. And Emma, sweet, sensitive Emma, believed that this was what relationships were supposed to be. I tried to talk to her, Jennifer said, her voice cracking now. I tried to tell her this wasn't normal. But he had convinced her that I was the problem. That I was jealous. That I wanted to control her life. The audience murmured. Several women wiped their eyes. Dr. Phil's expression was grave. Jennifer, I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. Abusers are master manipulators. They make their victims believe that the people trying to help them are actually the enemy. And by the time the victim realizes what's happening, they're so isolated, so beaten down psychologically, that they can't see a way out. Jennifer nodded. That's exactly what happened. And 8 months ago, Emma took her own life. She left a note. It said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I know you tried. But I can't do this anymore." The studio was silent. Even the camera operators seemed to be holding their breath. Dr. Phil spoke quietly. Jennifer, I am so sorry for your loss. But you said in your email that Emma left you something else. Something beyond that note. And that's when Jennifer reached into her purse. She did, Jennifer said. Her hand was shaking as she pulled out a small photograph. She left me this. Dr. Phil leaned forward, but before he could see it clearly, Jennifer held it up toward him and the cameras. And that's when Dr. Phil raised his hand. Stop. Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. The cameras stopped rolling. The audience fell completely silent. Dr. Phil stood up from his chair and walked directly to Jennifer. No microphone. No cameras capturing the moment. Just two human beings face to face. May I see it? He asked gently. Jennifer handed him the photograph. For nearly 30 seconds, Dr. Phil said nothing. He just stared at the image in his hands. And then, slowly, he looked up at Jennifer, and something in his expression had changed. The professional television host was gone. What remained was something rawer. Something real. He walked back to his position, still holding the photograph. He turned to the cameras. Roll, he said. And I want this on screen. The photograph appeared on the monitors throughout the studio. Audience members gasped. Some covered their mouths. A few began to cry. It was a selfie. Emma, smiling at the camera. But if you looked closely, really looked, you could see the truth in her eyes. The hollowness. The exhaustion. The fear masked as happiness. And written in small, careful handwriting on the back of the photo, visible because Emma had held it at an angle, were the words. Mom, if you're reading this, I didn't make it. But I need you to know this wasn't your fault. He told me no one would believe me. He told me I was crazy. He told me I deserved it. This photo was taken the day he told me I wasn't allowed to see you anymore. I smiled because he was watching. But I wasn't okay. I haven't been okay for a long time. Please don't let him do this to anyone else. I love you. Emma. Subscribe and leave a comment because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. The silence in the studio was deafening. Dr. Phil stood there, holding the photograph, his jaw tight. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, harder than anyone in the audience had ever heard. Jennifer, I want you to listen to me very carefully. What your daughter documented in this photograph, what she wrote on the back, this is evidence of psychological abuse. This is evidence of coercive control. And this is evidence that your daughter, in her final days, was trying to protect other women from the man who destroyed her. Jennifer's tears came then, finally. I tried to show this to the police. They said it wasn't enough. They said there was no crime. They said it was just a suicide note. They were wrong. Dr. Phil turned to the audience. Let me be very clear about something. Coercive control is abuse. It may not leave bruises you can see, but it leaves scars just as deep. And in many states, it is now recognized as a criminal offense. But even where it's not, it is real, it is devastating, and it destroys lives. He looked back at Jennifer. Your daughter knew that. And she left you this photograph because she wanted the world to know it too. But what happened next is something no one in the room or watching at home saw coming. Dr. Phil walked to the side of the stage and spoke briefly to one of the producers. The cameras captured him making a phone call. When he returned, his expression was resolute. "Jennifer, I just spoke to a colleague of mine, a leading expert on coercive control and domestic violence law. She's based in Ohio, where you live. And she wants to meet with you. Not for therapy. For legal advocacy." Jennifer looked up, confused. "I don't understand. What Ryan did to your daughter may not fit the traditional definition of a crime in every jurisdiction. But there are legal avenues, civil avenues, that can hold him accountable. Restraining orders. Civil lawsuits. Public awareness campaigns that put his name and face out there so other women know to stay away. Your daughter's photograph, her testimony, that's evidence. And we're going to make sure it's heard." The audience erupted in applause. Several women stood. Jennifer covered her face with her hands and sobbed. But Dr. Phil wasn't done. He sat back down, directly across from Jennifer, and looked at her with an intensity that silenced the room again. "Jennifer, I need you to hear something, and I need you to believe it. Your daughter's death was not your fault. You did not fail her. The system failed her. The people around her who should have seen the signs failed her. And most of all, Ryan failed her. But you loved her. You fought for her. And now, you're fighting for every other daughter out there who might end up in the same situation." He held up the photograph again. "This image, these words, this is your daughter's legacy. She wanted to be heard. And because of you, she will be." Jennifer wiped her eyes, nodding. "Thank you, Dr. Phil. Thank you for believing me." "I don't just believe you, Jennifer. I'm standing with you." He turned to the camera. "If you're watching this, and you recognize yourself in Emma's story, if you're in a relationship where someone is controlling you, isolating you, making you feel like you're losing your mind, please know this: you are not crazy. You are being abused. And there is help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Call them. Reach out. You deserve to be free." The screen displayed the hotline number as Dr. Phil continued. "And if you're a parent, a friend, a sibling, if you see someone you love changing, withdrawing, losing themselves in a relationship, don't look away. Speak up. Intervene. Because silence enables abusers. And we cannot be silent anymore." The audience stood in unison, applauding. Jennifer stood too, clutching the photograph to her chest. Dr. Phil walked over to her one more time. The cameras captured him saying something to her, too quiet for the microphones to pick up. But those who were close enough heard it. "She was so brave. And so are you." After the cameras stopped rolling, Dr. Phil did something he rarely does. He stayed. For nearly an hour, he sat with Jennifer in a private room backstage, along with 2 counselors from his team. They reviewed resources. They made phone calls. They connected her with legal advocates, victim support groups, and a network of other mothers who had lost daughters to similar circumstances. One of those mothers, a woman named Carol from Oregon, had started a nonprofit called Emma's Voice, dedicated to raising awareness about coercive control and advocating for stronger legal protections. Within weeks of the episode airing, Jennifer joined the board. Within months, she was speaking at high schools, community centers, and legislative hearings. Emma's photograph, the one she had taken in secret, the one with her mother's name written on the back, became the symbol of a movement. It was printed on flyers, shared on social media, projected onto screens at rallies. And every time someone saw it, they were reminded that abuse doesn't always look like violence. Sometimes it looks like love. Until it's too late. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. 2 years after that taping, Jennifer stood in the Ohio State Capitol as the governor signed Emma's law, making coercive control a criminal offense. 12 other states followed. Dr. Phil kept that photograph in his office. Not on the wall where guests would see it. In his desk drawer. Where only he would know it was there. Because some moments don't need an audience. They just need to be remembered. And Emma's voice will never be silent again.